This is where the fun begins.
Good morning, everyone, and welcome to my channel. And yes, we're all meeting for Caff Chat. I'm so happy to be here with you guys. And first of all, what are you enjoying this morning? So what is your choice of beverage? And I'm using my Hope mug here. So if you guys haven't had a chance to check out my merch, feel free to do so. I do have two resources. You could buy fine print, art prints from me, or you can go to my Redbubble and buy t-shirts and mugs or whatever you need that suits you, that what you need suits your needs. Yeah, and if you are tuning in, please hit the like button and let me know you're here by saying hello in the chat, and welcome to Cap Chat as well. Now, the channel basically is about, George Lucas era of Star Wars. We do talk a lot of EU. Also, it's about preservation of the EU, or basically of Star Wars, not just the EU, but of Star Wars in general in George Lucas era of Star Wars. And I do compare and contrast between both lores, between original and Disney lore, and I do discuss Disney lore pertaining to changes. So thank you guys for tuning in this morning. Please share out the stream as well. And if you are catching the replay, please hit the like button and leave a comment below. Let me know you are here. So I'm facing a different direction. The lighting is better. I'm still readjusting and redoing my studio here, but you can see behind me, I have a lot of my Star Wars stuff up on the wall, up on the shelves, along with all my paint stuff. I have my Star Wars in the background back there as well. And yeah, so a different view. Sometimes change is needed to like re-spark and reinvigorate. So here we go. And I have Orange Hat Review here. Won't be able to make it today, but have a great stream alarm. May the force be with you. Thank you, and may the force be with you as well. And then Matt G, like, oh my gosh. And then with all his coffee here. And it looks like a slow morning here. And I have Iris here. Good afternoon, everyone, and cheers to you. Good afternoon, good morning. Soul Assassin made it in. Everybody's starting to drop in. And as you drop in, I do have a new poll. Darth Bane basically won the channel best Sith, I guess you could say. And now we are going with the Mandalorians, because Mandalorian on Disney Star Wars lore, the show is being showcased and stuff, and they're being talked about. And you could see significantly the difference between what they're doing now with the Mandalorians versus what was created in the past in George Lucas era of Star Wars. So I put a poll up of favorite Mandalorian, and I have Candace Ordo, and then Mando Lore, the Ultimate, and then Casus Fett, and then Mando Lore, the Avenger, Shea Vizsla. So yeah, so I have those there. And so please check out which one vote on which one you like here. They all were back in like 3,900, time frame of BBY, 39, 36, 100, BBY. And, they all fought in certain wars, like the Mandalorian War. And what was the other one? Can't think of it right now. I'm still kind of waking up, you guys. Sorry. But anyways, so these guys are back in time here. And Mando Lore, the Ultimate, is the one that basically he's the last of the Tong. So he's the last of the original species that brought about the Mandalorian ways, the Mandalorian culture. So there's a little bit of history there. Let's see here. Hello, great to see you again. And hello, Matthew. Cheers to you. I got my cat jumping up here. Look at Darth Toby's making an appearance, you guys. Look at that. Because I'm sitting in a different area. Darth Toby, say hello. Say hello to Darth Toby. Okay. And Holocron Library Fox. Good morning, Alora. Hail the chat. Yes. And then let's see here. And everybody's saying hello to each other. And this cat is gonna drive me nuts here because you know I'm at a table here. He has more room to crawl around. So yeah. And Ira says, I have never got a tattoo, but I did always want the Mythosaur skull. Oh, that'd be pretty cool. Where would you put that? Where would you consider putting the Mythosaur skull? Let's see here. And let's see here. Hello, Darth Toby. Look at everybody saying hi to you. They're saying hi. Orange cats are my favorite. He is such a character. Oh my God. He loves to be held. He loves to socialize. Some orange cats can be big, you know, shits, I guess you could say, could be stuck up and stuff. Not him. He likes to socialize. So let's see. Upper arm. Pretty cool. All right. I was thinking upper arm, but then sometimes people will, you know, think of different places, like the side of the shoulder is one place, a bigger one down the back because of how it looks, you know, and how it streamlines down the back. You can do it like that, but that's everybody. That's up to, you know, the individual or whatever. So let's see here. So please go vote for your favorite Mandalorian. Again, this is back in like 3600 to 3900 BBY time frame. So this goes back in time. You know, we have the Casus Fett, who is an ancestor to the Fetts. We have Mandalore the Ultimate, who is the last of the Tong. And if you guys don't know the Tong, and I highly doubt that Disney will you know, bring in the Tong. And if they do, it's going to be totally different type of lore. But when it comes to them, the Tong originated from Coruscant before it became, you know, became the city world, I guess you could say. And I do have and I can't display it through StreamYard, but I do have from Jason Fox a 1 month, you know, member chat. Hail to you. Hope you're doing good. Good to see ya. Yeah, so thank you so much for becoming a channel member. If you're a channel member, you can get those channel member chats there, and it highlights you. I have to look at my other screen for that to see. So yeah, he is like zooming around here, this guy. Let's see here. Love the background with the good Star Wars stuff. Yeah, so I was sitting like the computer behind me here. I was in that corner there. I was in that corner. And the lighting with the window and all that just wasn't working very well. So I can't, and usually I would be here. So past streams, when I did my painting stream, was facing this other window on the table here. This is better. This is a better area for me. So I need to figure out how I want to set this up, because I do want to get a podcast type setup to where I have, you know, like, I don't know if I want to get a green screen. I'm still debating on that, but you know, have my podcast mic, all of that set up. Let's see here. The Exarchun War, Mandalorian Wars, Dark War, Great Galactic War. Yeah, that's one of them, the Great Galactic Cold War. Mandalorians love to fight the Republic. Yes, correct. You are correct. You are correct. Let's see here. So Mythosaur. So I don't know. Some of you guys might have watched the Mandalorian show. And I don't know exactly when it happened. I think it's towards the end when Din was dunking in Lake Minnetonka. Anyways, in Lake Minnetonka over there. And you know what Minnetonka means? Like, Minnetonka is a word from my culture. It is a Sioux word, I guess you could say, if you want to use that generic, that word. It's a Sioux word for a big water. Mini is water. Tonka is big. So Minnetonka. So Din, you know, jumped in Minnetonka, and she jumped in after him. And I guess that's when they awoken the Mythosaurs. Now, they are supposed to be, according to the lore, don't eat my brushes, dude. Darth Toby's trying to eat my paintbrushes. Don't eat my, come on. Say bye to your little friend. All right, so mythosauruses have been extinct for millennia, I guess you can say. When the Tong first inhabited, they left Coruscant basically and inhabited what is now called Mandalore, the planet. That was like the biggest threat to them. And basically they hunted them to extinction. However, they also used their skull and everything for for their for their insignia. And so they use that. And but now Disney Lore brought them back. They brought them back in a time where they shouldn't be living. So I have more people popping in. So you guys, if you're popping in, please hit the like button. Please go vote your favorite Mandalorian, not Mandalore, but Mandalorian, because case is fet. But vote for them. It's like back in 3900, 3600 BBY. So it's back in the days, I guess you could say. Hi, Christopher. How you doing? Hello, Matt. And another channel member popping in. Hello to you, Jedi Padawan Trela. Let me know what you think, because I know you're watching it. Let me know what you think about the Mandalorian, that last episode. Let's see here. And then we have Stieg. Yeah, Din takes a dunk in his bathwater. Yep, in Lake Minnetonka. And then Miss Martin Muses. Thank you. So vote for your favorite Mandalorian. I'm going to say Mandalore. I don't know why you want to keep saying Mandalore. Not all of them are leaders or the rulers, I guess you could say. Yes, they're supposed to be extinct. Yeah, Kitty. He is now in the other room. I can hear him playing with a piece of paper, which I'm fine with right now. And you're having peppermint coffee or peppermint mocha kind of deal. Sounds good. Mine just plain today. When did you set up the Star Wars shelves behind you? Lots of new stuff there. It's been there for a while. I just been facing, and I was telling the audience, I was telling the chat that I was sitting behind where that computer is. That's where I was sitting at. Because my thing is, I got to get that computer repaired. There's something wrong with some things in there, but I have to take it in. So I was using two screens. I was using my laptop and I was using the computer screen when I stream. And so my setup was back there for a while. But the lighting and just the internet connection and all that was just not working back there. And hey, hi, Quantum Cat. How are you doing? And Matthew, agreed. Yes. Jurassic. Well, the thing is I'm not going to make too much fun of having like dinosaur, lizard type species in the lore, because there's so many of them. We have the crate dragon, we have the Mythosaurus, or Mythosaur, not Saurus, but Mythosaur, which, like I said, the Tong wiped out millennia ago, so they shouldn't be alive then. But again, this is Disney Star Wars. So let's see here. Disney Lore pulled a Jurassic Park. Like I said, I'm not going to make too much of a big deal, because those creatures did exist at one time. Then we have the crate dragon and stuff. So they're like Nessies now. Some have survived hiding in large bodies of water. And from what I was researching and remembering, I don't think they were amphibious at all. And why would why would a species that big, whose size is supposed to be as big as probably a city? So imagine that, a big, huge, like lizardous dragon type creature, as big as a small city. Imagine that. Hiding in a body of water for how long? Because when we get into TCW, we never see them, especially when we're back there and they, the episodes at Mandalore, on Mandalore and all that. So are we supposed to think that there's something in those waters that sustains something that big, and that the Mandalorians never thought that they existed anymore? See where the disconnect? But now that they're in Disney lore, they're going to come up with, oh, they always exist, because that's just how it's going to be. Oh, they always have existed. Yeah. Um, Jedi Padawan says the planet Bo-Katan was named after the Finnish folklore. What Tolkien got inspiration for Lator from the planet. I know they were on um, Concordia. Basically, Concordia, is that which one it is? That one is in the original lore too. Concordia. I think it's called Concordia. It's one of the moons. So Concordia, there's two moons to Mandalore. There's Concordia, and I believe that's the name. And the other one is just called the second moon. There's no name to it, just the second moon. And then within the Mandalorian system, you do have like Concord Dawn, which is another Mandalorian world that a lot of Mandalorians settled on, instead of Mandalore, or the Mandalorian world, Mandalore. So there's those, and I forget what other planets were in that system, but Concord Dawn and Mandalore were the basic two planets that the Mandalorians settled on. I could be wrong, but I think the Mandalorians made an amusement park from the Mythosaur's bones during the Imperial era. They did. They did. They did. So that was quite interesting. I was going to get to that in a little bit, but they did make a amusement park from that, which I was giggling at. Why not, right? Because Mandalorians they're crazy. They're fun. They don't take no qualms about anything. If you are a betrayer, you are dead, right? If you leave the order or you're a pretender, you are dead. And then so when we get into TCW, when we have Satine and her faction, I'm like, where are the true Mandalorians to kill them? Because they are just posers. They're going against the code and all that. So why aren't they dead? Why weren't there? Why wasn't there a civil war at Mandalore? Because of that. That's the thing. And then what I laugh about is it was totally ignored. Like once we get into TCW, that faction existed. Once we get out of that era, out of that time frame, it no longer existed. It's like it was no longer mentioned anymore. And it's hilarious because it's like almost like it happened, or like it was rumored to, but it never really happened, So I thought that was kind of funny how like Leland and them handled that. Dicare, hello. Corky will return and claim the dark saber. Oh God. I thought the leader of the Mandalorians was called Mandoa. No, they're called Mandalore. So Mandoa basically is like the language. Like the language, yeah. Mandalore is the leader. So yeah. Coffee. Yes. Cheers to that. And I'm almost out already. Now, I didn't announce that I'm going to probably end this a little bit sooner than I normally do. And when I announce that, sometimes that doesn't even happen. I have an appointment after I'm done here. So, and Darth Toby is back. So there's going to be some shenanigans with him today. I can just feel it. Last couple of Caff chats, he was laying low. Let's see here. Let's clap for diversity and dinosaurs. their screen, right? Their little whiteboard and dinosaurs. Like I said, I'm not going to make too much fun of that, but that was hilarious because we do have the Sissy Rook, we do have like the Crate Dragons, we do have the Mythosaur, all of those, and then we have sentient alien species that are evolved out of fish, out of horse or dog or whatever you want to call them. The Bothans, which is debated, were they a dog, were they a horse, what were they, like what were they? Let's see here. Nope, not amphibious. Being able to swim is just as iffy as a T-Rex being able to, if not much more. Well, that's the thing. That's why I'm questioning that. Why did they show this Mythosaur underwater sleeping? It's like all of a sudden they're back. They're back. I don't know. Oh, that one. I can't even pronounce it. Kalevala. Okay. I didn't see, like I said, I know that, there was Concordia, there's the second moon that, and then there's the Mandalore, the planet. Yeah, so thank you for sharing that. Matthew says, I'm not going to lie. I love the sequel trilogy, and Daisy Ridley as an actress, but I think they should have copied off the original Thrawn book trilogy, just the best book trilogy. I kind of disagree, and I might be one of the few that disagree about that. Yes, I agree that it was a great sequel, like intro, like one of the it's okay. So you guys are gonna probably like walk out the door on me for saying this, but it's a little overrated, I guess you could say. I love the story. I love what it did to open up the EU. It made Lucasfilm realize that fans, we like continuity, we like the lore, we like the history, we like everything all tied in together. We don't like multiverse, and that's what changed Star Wars from all the other franchises, is that it wasn't a multiverse. So that was a chance. That was the chance when they're like, yeah, this is what the fans want. We're going to go ahead and keep up with the continuity, keep up with the history, all of this. So I get it. They earned its spot. Thrawn, created some brilliant characters and everything. I get that. But when we're talking about handing down the torch to the next generation, which that's what George shared with us, with the movies, we had the first one, PT Anakin, the second one, Luke and Leia. The third one has to be the adult children of them, of Leia and Luke. So I would say a PT or a sequel trilogy after Crucible, when we have Ben, Jaina, and then Jag, the top three there, and the torch is handed off to them, which leads into legacy comics and into the next, the two generations after. So that's how I see that, because there's no handing down the torch here other than continuing Luke and Leia's story in this. So yeah. Good morning. Or what's that say? Oh yeah. Oh, good morning, OG. Got my Java in hand. Well, cheers to you. Look at you. Okay, and Darth Toby, right here. Say hello. All right. Let's see. Stig says, Tolkien based the elves' language on a Finnish one, didn't base the story of it. The story was in part based on the rings of Nibelungs. I'm sorry if I pronounced that wrong. A Germanic folklore. Thank you for sharing that. Holocron says, from TCW and Rebels, I seem to remember the Mando Lore kind of being a hostile desert outside of living domes, never seen water there. That's the thing, because Mando Lore, the world, has oceans. It's got fauna. It has all of that. And then also when you get to TCW, when you get to Filoni's stuff, it's all of a sudden a desert and stuff. So, but see, they said the water was under the mines in the show. That's what I remember hearing. Din endangers a youngling in the last episode. They endangered the youngling in the last episode, but that's just my thing. Filoni doesn't have to keep any continuity because his audience can't pay attention anyways. And thank you, like, share, and subscribe. Yes. Wow, I am 0 to 2 today on my lore. That's okay. That's okay. I mean, it's always good to be like share something and realize, oh crap, I was wrong, and now have the right information in front of you. That's what is the learning thing is. Like, okay, that humbled me a little bit. Now I got it. Now I know. The more you know, right? The more you know. So let's see here. They spared no expense. And okay, let's see. So if you're tuning in right now, go vote on the poll. We'll check that out and we'll talk more about the Mythosaur. So favorite Mandalorian. We have Candace Ord at 57%. Mandalorian the Ultimate, who is the last of the Tong. I'm so sad, and he's at 0. Then we have Casus Fett, who's at 14%. And then Mando Lore, the Avenger, who is Shay Vizsla, is at 29%. So she right there is an interesting character as well, Shay Vizsla. So yeah. So, and then Casus Fett, basically he was the like the marshal at the time for Mandalore the Ultimate. And so but everybody remembers Casus more than Mandalore the Ultimate. So that's kind of interesting. But some of us may have not read back in that time frame to know or played the games and read during, because the Old Republic during that time frame is more game oriented than novel oriented, I guess you can say, than like going forward. So that's probably why, who knows, but we are at Candace Ordo is, I always say Ord, but it's Ordo, is at 57%. So this will be up for half an hour and we'll go from there. And maybe then I will do like I did before and see if I could showcase other Mandalorians to come out, like another 3 more rounds, making 4 top 4, voting on the top 4, and then seeing who wins out. So this is around like 3600 BBY, Battle Before Yavin. So there we go. So go get your votes in. I didn't do a slideshow. I was going to do a slideshow on all those characters so I can present that to you, but I just didn't do it. Jedi Padawan Trailer says, I like the Thrawn trilogy, but my favorite EU storyline is New Jedi Order series. And that's the thing I was going to share with you guys, is I am currently revisiting the New Jedi Order, but I'm revisiting them on, and I don't know if Solasat, oh yeah, you're still here. I'm revisiting them on, let me pull up on my phone here to make sure I got the site right, but I'm revisiting them, listening to the unabridged audible on the New Jedi Order YouTube channel, and I'm on Star by Star. So I do have this out still. Oh my God, you guys. No matter how many times you go to this book, the heart, it is so friggin' crazy. So crazy. It's like, getting to the very important scenes here, and I don't know if it's gonna be spoilers for you or not, but when we lose Anakin, and then they think they lost Jason as well, and Luke is already making the decision, like they're debating. I'm on the part where they're debating on who should go to kill the Queen Voxen. And the debate, how Han's settling this, because he's still raw from losing. He's still healing from losing Chewie, right? Chewbacca. And it's his kids that they're talking about. And Luke, as the uncle, has to make the right decision. And they're listening to the Force, and Anakin's listening to the Force, and the Force keeps telling them, the Force keeps showing them, in a sense, and making them feel what is right, what they need to do. But all the decision leads up to, a very heartfelt tragedy. Look at this. Look at Leia. And it's heartbreaking. It's heartbreaking. Yeah. So I'm leading up. I'm on that part of the unabridged. And I don't know. It's just, sometimes you have to pause and just let it, like, think about it. Like Luke Skywalker, who is all about his family, having to make those choices, knowing they may not all come back, making the choices of should they fight or not. That if they don't get rid of those Voxens, more Jedi are gonna die. Hearing about Alima Ra losing her sister in general, and then now she gets fucked up from it afterwards, is another thing. That's another thing. That's like this book is full of it, but it is so good, you guys. So good. Like Vector Prime, that's a great book too. And then you get towards the middle to this, and then you read past all the stories past it is good too. There are some hit and miss, storylines in there. But overall, New Jedi Order is amazing. But yes, talk about dark times, talk about dark stories, talk about dark, mature adult stories. So like if you hear people on Twitter social media saying, oh, Andor, it was so dark and, and it was adult and blah, 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 blah. No, you didn't read this. You have not read the New Jedi Order to know what dark is when it comes to Star Wars. Mind you, there's other stories too. But man, the authors really, really killed it in this one. I'm not saying literally because they're showing us that no one is safe from death and destruction and loss. And that's what Star Wars is about as well. Yes, it's about the hope. And there's hope at the end of New Jedi Order. But there's also loss because you can't have hope without the loss. You can't have a good story without having some things that pull at your heartstrings and stuff like that. So there we go. But that's my thing. So that's what I'm on right now. And I'm telling you, like hearing Luke and hearing Han and all them and even Leia put in that situation of like, do we have our kids go? Luke's like, I can go do this. Anakin, you stay kind of deal. It's like that whole debate. It's like, and then after, even after you read it a couple more times, you're still like, if Luke would have went, what would have happened? Or don't do that, so you're still invested in it because it's that good. It's that good. Let's see here. Let me go ahead and scroll back up. Wow, you guys are just chatting away here. Yes, please hit the like button. Ugh, Filoni. And that's the thing. So our cringe factor, which we'll get into here pretty soon, but the cringe factor is more or less about PT era, and it's about, if you guys haven't seen my tweet, it is about them saying, an opinion saying that Anakin worshipped Obi-Wan and that's what made him fall. I'm not shitting you. I'm not shitting you. Anakin worshipped Obi-Wan because he thought Obi-Wan was the greatest Jedi. And that's what made him fall. But we'll get into that in a little bit. So just something to chew on while we still discuss a little bit about the Mythosaurs and the lore and stuff like that. Let me see what you guys have to say. Bologna wars. Yeah. I don't even like bologna in real life. I never cared for bologna growing up. Sometimes I'd have to eat it because that's all we had, like to make, like a lunch or something like that. So I had to suck it up. But I'm not going to tell you grandma no. Back in my days, back in my days, as I have my cane right now. But growing up in my time, yeah, you don't tell your elders no. You never did. And if you had an elder, grandma, grandpa that loved to sit down and talk to you about things and stuff like that and listen to stuff, that was great and stuff. But the respect was like, that's your elder. They lived their life. They have experienced more than you. You really don't tell them no. You don't want your ass kicked. All right. So Assassins, anyone else see that Mando kid's helmet was from Walmart? I didn't investigate that. It's a Walmart one. Just like the Mon Calamari sweaters from JCPenney's. Jackson, isn't that what the xenomorph was supposed to be? A Tong cyborg? Stupid. I don't know. Let's see here. Five Below had so many Grogu shirts. OG would love it. Ha ha ha. Joking. Oh hell no. I would, if I had one of those shirts, I would put him up for target practice at our, if my family decides to go out doing some shooting and stuff like that at the range. So Matthew says, I see and understand what you are saying. I think you're absolutely 100% right. New Jedi Order. So there it is. Check that out. Like I said, not all of the books are up right now. I don't know if hopefully they will. I had to skip over some of them. I wanted to listen, and so because I read the whole series, I was fine with skipping over whatever wasn't. Like Balance Point is before then, where Leia basically almost loses her life and Jason saves her. That's in short. Yeah, that wasn't on there yet. So hopefully they finish putting up the rest of the books. But it's a great experience. If you have not read all through the series yet, I highly recommend reading through the series first. If you get to a book that is on the New Jedi Order YouTube page and you want to listen, then listen to it. But read the books in between. Don't skip over. Now, me, I skipped over, like I said, because I've read through the series a couple times already. Correct. Let's see. What is the new Jedi Order book you're holding? This is Star by Star. Sorry about that. And it's hardcover. This is like the biggest, thickest book in all of Star Wars. And it has so much going on in it. Oh my God. And it's like a 606 pages. Or 602, maybe I exaggerated. And look at, you have... Okay, so now we're just going to adore this book again. So you have the galaxy map here. And no regions and stuff. Very good. Troy Denning's picture. Yeah, so good. And then in here, there's... I opened it up to it when when I had a paint session chat. But there's little images of the characters in some chapters. So we have Leia here. So very, very good. And this is the hardcover, and it's like 602, 603, 606 or whatever. Look at that. Pretty good size here. Look at that. And it says, in the shadow of the treacherous enemy, the Jedi Knights reach their darkest hour. No kidding. No kidding. Holy crap. Good stuff. Excuse me, my voice now. I'm getting all choked up. Looks so good, and the story is amazing and powerful. It is. Star by Star. I've started rereading the Legacy series. The fan audios are very good. Oh, cool. I've seen that they have the fan audio, the audio ones there. I know what Jedi Order is. I'm asking the book. Alora is holding. Yeah, I already seen that. I know you already commented a while ago, so I'm not gonna. Okay. It says, my brother sold me bologna as a flattened hot dog when I was little. Now, I'm not getting to the most current chats. I'm still going through, so I apologize if you answered some of my questions or whatever, but that is funny shit, Crimson. Thank you for sharing. Another channel member, thank you so much. Let's see here. Exactly right. I don't know exactly what that was for, but I'd buy a Superman shirt over a Grogu shirt. I wouldn't, yeah. I wouldn't buy none of that, but that's me. Great idea. Let's see here. Target practice. All right. Okay, so I got down to the chats here. All right. So basically, the Mythosaurus basically is a species of animals native to the outer rim world of Mando Lore. So you already established that. And they're non-sentient. Their classification is a reptile. So now, reptiles are cold-blooded. Now, we do have alligators that kind of fit in that, but then they go in and out of the water. But something that big, living underwater like that, being hidden for so long, and I'm questioning it until an answer comes up, right? And then I'll still compare and contrast, because that's what my channel is about as well. Not only preserving George Lucas era Star Wars, but also comparing and contrast between the two lores, so to give you guys a clear understanding of what's going on and let you judge for yourself which direction you want to go with that. Do you want to stay with the original lore? Usually original lore is a whole lot better. Why do the knockoff, right? Why go and want to participate in a knockoff when you can have the real deal in front of you and enjoy, right? So that's how I see this. So the description, like enormous size, about city-like proportions. So imagine that. How deep is that friggin' lake underneath the mines to house something that big? Or is Disney lore now making them smaller so that they can have the scene, and now bringing them back as always been there but hidden underneath, surviving the bombardment in the lore? And I think it's Rebels. Wasn't the bombardment during Rebels or like TCW the last season? I forget. I haven't really kept track of that. But the bombardment of Mandalore, surviving that, you would think that they would be more or less in caves than water. And what are they sustaining themselves with? because a species that big has to have prey to fuel their body system of that capacity, right? So that's just what I'm questioning about the Disney lore. So, but when the Tong left what is now known as Coruscant, they settled on Mandalore. And, of course, they created the Mandalorian culture, which evolved into what we see during Fett's time. A very interesting evolution of the Mandalorian culture, which comprised of not just a single species after the Tong became extinct. It was humans. It was, like Rhodians, I guess you could say, Twi'lek. I mean, you name it. It's the system, not the system, but the species. It wasn't all one system, like a one species. Sorry, I keep on saying system. I don't know why. And it was more than about blood, right? It was more than about blood relationships. So you could be a foundling, you could be adopted in, what have you. Is the creed that they followed, the culture that they followed, right? So when the Mandalorians first came in, and this is Mandalorian the First, basically, when they first came in under Mandalorian the First, they had a campaign to conquer the world for their own. So that included defeating the Mythosaur, because the Mythosaur was basically the dominant species on the planet. And then after they drove that to extinction, they also revered the species as well. So the skull of the Mythosaur became the symbol of the Mando Lore, the traditional ruler of the Mandalorians clans and the planet Mandalore, and the Mandalorians themselves for generations after. So we have that. So that's the lore behind the Mythosaur. So they found this new home. Wasn't a desert planet with water underneath the mines, I guess you can say, if that's what we're going to say. It was a planet that had oceans, that had fauna, that had forests or jungle, I guess you can say, and stuff. And then you had the Mythosaur, which was killed to extinction, but also revered as a symbol of the leadership of the Mandalorians as being like a ruthless kind of culture and stuff. So we have that now to it being changed around, and I don't see why people are so okay with it, especially if you're really into the Mandalorian culture. And that was one of the things that you followed in your Star Wars experience pre-Disney, because it doesn't make sense. It takes away from the Tong and the symbolism. Yeah, so let me see what you guys have to say. And I hope if you don't know about the Mythosaur, I'm just renaming him, the Mythosaur, you're learning now. And hopefully that opens your eyes up a little bit more and want to explore the Mandalorian lore in the early stages, and go through it and learn more about it as it evolves to Boba Fett's generations. And then Sarian at the very least, but still too big for most cold environments, at least dietary wise. Excuse me. And then Lady of Iron says, it's insulting we didn't get to see the other Mandalore wildlife. Well, that's the thing. It was destroyed in TCW, but like I said, so in Disney lore, it's still the same. But in George Lucas era, they ignored everything that happened on Mandalore after TCW. Like, it went back to normal. Nothing was said, basically, from my knowledge, and I'll go do further research. If I'm skipping something or I miss something, I apologize. Some of the stuff I'm also revisiting since from a while ago. So there. They probably make the Mythosaur an aquatic dragon and Mandalore having to under an underground ocean. Probably. My thing, and I was thinking about this, is what if they didn't tell Mandalore, Din Jughead, basically, he has to take a tooth from it to show his bravery, like dive deep into Lake Minnetonka, And that's his baptism. But to show that he is worthy more is to bring a tooth back. You know where I'm getting that from, you guys? From when Django made Boba, young Boba, go get that tooth from that creature. And I forget the name of the creature. And I've talked about it on this channel a few times. And he's like, you face the most fearful thing in the galaxy and brought back a tooth. So now you should not fear anymore. And I'm paraphrasing, but that was the test that Django gave Boba. The lake is like the inside of the TARDIS of the wizard's tent in Harry Potter. Laugh out loud. Probably. I'm not too familiar on Harry Potter culture. My mind is like everywhere today. Same point around 0BBY at some point. Let's see. What's your personal favorite planet in the entire EU, counting the 6 films as well? Oh, crap. I don't know. I never really thought about that. If you guys want to answer this question too, please share. Oh, crap. I will have to get back to you on that. I never really thought about that. Really, I never. And while I'm thinking, let's go ahead and check out the poll. We got about maybe another 10 plus more minutes to go. So if you're tuning in, please hit the like button. Please vote on the poll. And let us know who you prefer. Who's your favorite Mandalorian? And I should have put the dates up there. So it's around 3,600 to 3,900 is the time frame of these guys. We have Candace Ordo at 56%. We still have Mando Lore, the Ultimate, at 0%. Casis Fett at 17%. And Mando Lore, the Avenger, who is Shea Vizsla, at 28%. Now, Mando Lore, the Ultimate Basic, is the last of the Tong. So just a little history on that. There you go. Good question, though, TJ. Good question. Now you have me thinking. Because I never really sat down and thought, what is my favorite planet? Don't know. Idiot walks off the drop off of an underground like an idiot. I say Bo should have just left him to it. I don't know much about the scenes too much because I haven't really watched it other than people's reviews and small clips of them. So that's interesting. And Jedi Padawan says, how did Din just fall off into the deep end and not attempt to surface? Did I miss something? It seemed weird. Are they saying that the Mandalorian armor basically is heavy, and if you're not strong enough to swim in it, that you sink? Is that what's going on? I don't know. Casis Fett was the one to convince Mandalore the Ultimate to start recruiting non-Tong members. Correct. And then why does TCW presented Mandalore look the way it does? That's just what they did. And then so people who are keeping continuity in there is like, well, that's just another faction, which we have like the Death Watch as a faction, the True Mandalorians as a faction. Of course, Jango Fett's the one that brought about the True Mandalorians, basically. That's what made the division. And we have the Death Watch. So a little history on that. Where he expanded on the Mandalorian code, and so are we to say now that the pacifists evolved from the Death Watch, since Bo-Katan is a Death Watch? And then this is where it gets confusing when it gets into the Disney lore, because true Mandalorians don't exist anymore. Is this what they're saying? But you have Death Watch, and then from Death Watch that cult evolved. I'm not getting it. Someone kind of explain that to me. What's going on here? What are they doing? Because now it's like the Mandalorian culture is this human species as well. And it never was just specifically human species. So what the hell? What happened to the Mandalorians? What happened to the true Mandalorians? So Assassin's spitting some stuff here. Candace Ord saved the Mandalorians from the extinction after their loss during the Mandalorian Wars. Correct. Let's see here. It's frustrating seeing my favorite culture being destroyed. Yeah. I mean, I'm trying to wrap my head like, where are they going with this? Like, how did the Mandalorians now become a thing in Disney lore since they're retconning every single thing about the Mandalorian culture? So anybody can, if you're following this Disney lore of the Mandalorians and you understand it, please share with me because I don't understand it. TJ says no one asked, but I used to be a big EU fan while also loving TCW. When I read through the ridiculously good Republic comic book series by DH Dark Horse, I completely changed my opinion. Fordo's vids also helped. There you go. And that's the thing. Once you get into all the lore pertaining around TCW, the multimedia project of '03, and you compare it to TCW, usually that's when you're like, nope. I do like some stories in TCW, mind you, there are some good stories, but I don't respect the creator, and that's Filoni. I'm not talking about George. And I don't respect the direction it took. So, and we're going to come up another about 8 minutes. We're going to come into cringe factor, which we will talk about Filoni and Favreau as well, because the article that I'm sharing for cringe factor will kind of have something to do with Filoni and Favreau's philosophy regarding the lore, regarding the movies and all that, what they're ignoring. Soul Assassin says, having Din Jarhead collect a tooth is ripping off Boba Fett of collecting dangerous creatures' teeth. Yes, and also how his father, or how Django tested him by getting that tooth, the first tooth. Jackson says, in the EU, bombardment led to exposure of untapped Beskar mines. Yes. And that's revealed, I believe, in Bloodline in Legacy of the Force. So, and that was when the Vong bombarded and changed the planet and it opened up. Doubt this would do anything like that. Correct. My personal favorite planet is probably Korriban. Okay. I still haven't decided yet. Maybe I'll tell you by the end of the show. Maybe I'll tell you on Twitter in the community page. We'll see. I don't know. In the EU, bombardment led to exposure of untapped Beskar. Yep. And Soikuosgar Mandoad. I cannot pronounce shit today. Soikugar Mandoad. Yeah. If I butcher that, I apologize. I certainly do. I don't like how Disney is making the Mandalorian culture into royal king queen stuff. That's what it seems like too. It's like it, and I'll just get into this right now then. Filoni and Favreau's shitty explanation about the Darksaber. It's like night, like Knights of the Round Table or whatever, like the sword, reclaiming the sword and how it chooses the person's destiny or chooses the person. The sword doesn't choose the person. It goes to the person that's next in line, basically, or the person that's heir to the person that carried it, in a sense. So that's what that meant. It wasn't like, I choose you kind of deal like they share. And to me, this was a way of them explaining Rey and the Skywalker saber. So they're justifying Rey and the Skywalker saber in TFA to justify the Darksaber. On I choose you. And then, so this explanation all around that was so crazy. Like, even to a point where they said, well, it's a lightsaber. So if you're not trained to use it, and you're not a Jedi or trained to use it, the sword is going to be harder to handle, blah, blah, blah. Well, Empire Strikes Back. Han Solo picked up the sword, picked up Luke's saber, the Skywalker saber, basically, and ignites it. It wasn't heavy for him. He never trained to use it, and sliced open and saved Luke. Yeah. So there goes that explanation out the door. That was like George Lucas, like, mic drop. But then you have like Moff Gideon, who can just use it like nothing. So what is it? So not only Empire Strikes Back with Han using to have cut open the Tauntaun or whatever the name is, to Moff Gideon using it. They can't keep that fucking lore straight as well. They can't. So yeah. So like I said, and that's a thing too. So I'm gonna go back to TCW when the Darksaber was announced or brought into the lore. It was totally ignored before and after TCW. It's like it happened, but only in that time frame. And the history, the lore, people who are creating the continuity ignored it. Jackson says, I guess the TCW was some kind of backlash after the last PT Civil War. Let's see here. Didn't Boba show Din Jarhead that Jester Morales existed in an episode of Mandalorian? Yes. So it was in some kind of like in his gauntlet or whatever. He pressed a button and there was like the Arabish kind of explanation, and it had Django in there, and Jaster, whatever. So it was yeah. So they brought him in, but doesn't mean that it's gonna happen that way. Doesn't mean it's gonna happen that way. So Tor seems to be better with the Mandalorian culture at the moment, and it's still updating to this day, like recent with the Shea Vizsla and Hedda Cole. Yeah. And just keep an eye on that, you guys. Make sure, and I would like to know, let me know how they do with each update, because I'm fearing that they're going to start putting in Disney Mandalorian lore in there eventually. Call it cringe with OG Star Wars. Yeah, we're going to get into cringe factor here pretty soon. Who else was humming Joe Cocker's You Can Leave Your Hat On watching? Like I said, I didn't watch that, but that is friggin' hilarious. That is hilarious. All right. My favorite planet is Dixun, or if I think I said that right. Right? Mandalorians don't have royalty. Their clans were follow the best warrior. Correct. And the Mando Lore basically just was a person that called them into action. And together debated on important issues for Mandalore. That's it. That's it. That's all. Once Mandalore called everybody into action, then they listened. Sometimes they didn't have to. It wasn't a dictatorship. It wasn't a rulership. None of that. I don't know if you played SATOR, but I really recommend playing through the main stories. It offers really good Star Wars, in my honest opinion. Yes, that's what I hear as well. I have a few games uploaded on my computer. I don't have time right now to play any games. I haven't had time to play games in a very long time. I know every little about the Mandalorian culture. Is the Darksaber is the EU or Filoni's creation? It is Filoni's creation. It only happened in TCW. Didn't happen before, and didn't happen after. So it just kind of like what happened during that time frame and disappeared. Totally, and just like the pathicist. I tell you, I can't even talk. I don't know what's wrong with me today. Pacifists, there you go. They were there, and then now they're gone. Nothing whatsoever. So I just found out on a video on YouTube that Earth exists in Star Wars canon. No, not really. Let's see here. Maybe in Disney, but not in original. Darksaber is Filoni's creation, correct? Sounds like the Darksaber is a Pokemon, laugh out loud. Yeah, it does. And all they did was replace the Mask of Mando Lore with the Darksaber. Yeah, that's the thing. When I was looking into it, when the Darksaber first came out and stuff, I was like, what's going on here? So we went from the mask to the Darksaber. Now are we going back to the mask to where you can't take it off? But wasn't that just the Mando Lore? That's why I'm asking the questions about making sense of the Mandalorian culture in Disney. Maybe I shouldn't, because that shit is fucking whack, you guys. It's like they don't know which way they want to go. Not even with the Darksaber. And I told myself, I'm not going to talk about this Mandalorian shit today, but we are. I guess we are. I guess we are. I'm just going along with everything and what we're discussing, but this Darksaber lore doesn't make sense. Either it's too heavy to a person or not. Either a person is skilled enough to operate it or not. Can't have it both ways. Especially when the characters should have no experience operating them, but yet they do. But then you say no. See, that's the confusing part. And then with you have to earn it through battle to keep it. So I mean, it's crazy. Let's see here. People like Filoni couldn't stand in kindergarten. I created sandbox scenarios for them where they could do no damage to my play world. Goodness gracious. Mantle of the Mando Lore was lost about 300 years before the Darksaber is supposedly recovered. Yeah. Thanks for sharing that because I didn't have a definite date. There was an EU story called Darksaber, but it was a giant super weapon similar to the Death Star, correct? Yep. That's all. That's it. Mandalorian culture. There we go. So yes, I did do talking EU with him. So I did interview Mando Lore, or Captain Fordo, I guess you can say, or Tad, depending on what you call him. But yeah, so I did interview Tad. So check out that interview. Written by Kevin Janner, correct. They can't keep anything straight. Agreed. It annoys me that lightsabers or the dark blade don't dismember alien species or stormtroopers now. It's poor, correct. So now we're going to start getting into our cringe factor. But first, let's go ahead and check out, before we segue into cringe factor, let's go ahead and check out the poll, and I'm going to close it out. So if you're tuning in right now or you didn't have a chance to vote, get your vote in now while I'm yapping away. Favorite Mandalorian, Candace Ordo, 57%. Mandalore the Ultimate, 4%. And he's the last of the Tong species that brought about Mandalorian culture and what it evolved into, what we see in Fett's and his granddaughter's generation. Fett, 17%, and Mandalore, the Avenger or Shea Vizsla, is at 22%. 22% here. So we have Candace Ordo, who won out of all four, all of them here. Thank you guys for voting, and it is now closing. Thank you guys again. I like doing that because then it kind of gives us a chance of something else to talk about, especially if the poll is something that's not, on the agenda to talk about. It just gets us talking in different directions of Star Wars, which is fun because then we can just say, oh yeah, that history ties here kind of deal, just a beautiful thing. Let me finish reading these before we go on. Disney and EU are two separate things that can't be reconciled, correct. No matter how much they put in the EU stuff into their lore, it does not work. Candace Ordo was the last known Mandalore to wear the mask of the Mandalorians after it was lost. Yes, correct. And I meant to say that earlier, but I didn't. My girlfriend and I recently watched the 6 original movies. She was a first-timer, and she surprisingly took a liking to Star Wars and has now started reading some short EU comics I've been sending. Awesome. Keep her on track with the George Lucas era, too. AKA Legends. So keep her on track with that. Lady of Iron. Making sense of any Disney lore is just exhausting. Correct. All right. So let's go ahead and get into our cringe factor and enjoy that. So here we go. Again, we're going to get into the PT era with Anakin and Obi-Wan.
So uncivilized.
So here we go, you guys. Here is the cringe factor article. Now let me scroll, and I thought I had it set up to where I wanted it to be at. So this is it. And I shared this last night or yesterday. I was like, what is going to be my topic, like my cringe factor topic for Caff Chat? Because sometimes a cringe factor topic will help decide on what lore we're going to talk about. Because another basis on why I do these articles is not to reveal the truth that is hidden within these on the direction that the company's going with the lore, but also debunk and share the true lore, what is Star Wars versus what they're trying to make you think Star Wars is by changing and retconning. So let me go ahead. There we go. So this is something here. This doesn't particularly pertain to any lore in Disney, I believe, from what I read last night, but I wasn't in a hurry, but I wanted to get to bed. So there's that. So I didn't pick up any comic lore that they're saying that this is based upon, other than this is just opinion. And I thought, okay, still, I've read this Marcelo's articles before. Let's debunk the shit out of this, because this guy doesn't seem to clearly know or understand Star Wars or even watch the movies. You don't have to read the EU, play the games, read the comics, or any of that to understand the direction George is taking with Star Wars, right? Like, the EU is just another supplement if you want to get fully submerged into Star Wars and know what happens around the movies. It's just a supplemental type stuff, right? So we have this. Anakin's hero worship of Obi-Wan set up his dark side fall. How in the hell or when did Anakin worship Obi-Wan? And how did this person come to the conclusion of it setting up his dark side fall? Now that I said this, I'm going to check the comments before we get into this, but I'm going to read this one more time here, or not one more time, but I'm going to go through the little subtitle here. Anakin Skywalker worshipped Obi-Wan Kenobi as the perfect Jedi, which set up their friendship's downfall and contributed to the rise of Darth Vader. And again, this is by Marcelo Light, or whatever. And so this was published 6 days ago, but I didn't want to fully get into a lot of Mandalorian stuff from the movies or from the show. I wanted to kind of break away from it a little bit, which kind of didn't help or work since I talked about the Mythosaur and the culture, but I digress. So here we are. Let me see what you guys have to say. This article are getting dumber all the time. These articles are getting dumber all the time, for fuck's sakes. What has Star Wars come to? Fortunately, we'll always have the good old stuff. Correct. And please hit the like button and become a channel member. Yes. I highly recommend it. Highly recommend it. So let's get back to the article here. So here we have, them side by side here. Let me see here. And I'm going to go ahead and just bring this, zoom in a little bit more here. So this is by Marcelo, whatever his name is. Star Wars Anakin Skywalker idolized Obi-Wan Kenobi, which would eventually lead to the downfall of their friendship. Now, where in the PT did Anakin idolize? He's seen him as a father figure, yes, but he also seen him as him holding him back. And we'll get into more of that here pretty soon. In a way, Obi-Wan had to be a Jedi Master, a brother, and a father figure to Anakin all at the same time, following Qui-Gon Jinn's death in Star Wars Episode 1. One of the most complex relationships in Star Wars universe. Anakin and Obi-Wan went from best friends to sworn enemies in a tragedy that could be attributed to several factors. Yes, they were close because Obi-Wan took the responsibility when Anakin was 9 to train him. Yes, people can see their masters as father-mother figures. And yes, other masters did help train, like Yoda helped train as well. So there's that relationship. Doesn't mean that's a worship or idolization at all. Anakin Skywalker's fall to the dark side only happened in Star Wars Episode 3, Revenge. We started seeing his fall in Episode 2. Yes, it happens in Episode 3 towards the end because that was inevitable, right? We knew that was coming. We knew that was going to happen. But his fall began in Episode 2. Some can say when he was separated from his mother because of attachment. But the first two entries of the Star Wars prequels had already set up the mistakes that would lead to the rise of Vader. So let's see what this guy says about the mistake. In the Clone Wars, which was released after Revenge of the Sith, but takes place between 1 and 2, also adds to Anakin's eventual fall from grace. In all of those stories, the relationship between Anakin and Obi-Wan is essential to understanding why Anakin turned away from the Jedi Order. What do you guys think here? Now we're getting further into this article. What do you think? I am going to check out the chat again. Is it screen writing? Yes, it is. I use Screen Rant, sometimes CBR, for cringe factor articles because there are some truth inside some of those on the direction that Disney is taking Star Wars. There's always truth in these cringe clickbaity articles. However, this one right here, I believe, is mostly opinion, which I feel like tearing apart. That's what cringe factor is about. I mean, how on earth could you leap to such conclusions after supposedly watching the PT while paying attention? These people just love to bash on George Lucas creations for the sake of doing so. So dishonest. Screen Rant been on a roll with cringe takes lately. Yes, it has. And then Corey Cochran says, have fun. I think you're bailing out on us. Well, if you are, thank you for tuning in as well. He's like, I'm done now. I'm done. Okay. One line in Star Wars Episode 2, Attack of the Clones, perfectly exemplifies how Anakin idolizes Obi-Wan Kenobi as a Jedi. So let's see what this person has to say. When describing his Jedi master to Padme, Anakin states that Obi-Wan is a wise master, or Master Yoda, or as wise as Master Yoda and as powerful as Master Windu. That's not idolizing, that's complimenting. To describe how good of a Jedi Obi-Wan is, Anakin used two most powerful and experienced members of the Jedi Council, Yoda and Windu, as a perimeter. If a Jedi could be as powerful as Windu and as wise as Yoda, then there is no doubt that such person would be most perfect Jedi ever exists. That doesn't mean idolization. That is a compliment. That's how he sees. That's not idolization whatsoever. He also idolizes Yoda for his dueling abilities, where he's like, they're talking about Anakin's dueling skills, and he was like, I thought I was already better than Yoda, kind of deal. So there we go. Let me see what you guys have to say. Very interesting, but I don't know if I trust it. No, you don't trust it. This is a person's opinion. This is a bad take that I decided to use for cringe factor. So let's see what they have to say further. Obi-Wan was a remarkable Jedi Knight and a trustable master who earned his sit at the council. You mean seat at the council. Earn his sit. Yo, you guys, he earned his sit at the council. Yet Anakin's description of Kenobi was an exaggeration. Kenobi was not as powerful as Windu, nor did he have as many answers to the mysteries of the Force as Yoda. Yoda even admitted that he's still learning about the Force, that he's mistaken, that if you read the Revenge of the Sith novel, he is very clear how much he still had to learn. So I think you're taking something that Anakin said and just stretching it out to perceive what you want to. Granted, Obi-Wan was arguably the most balanced Jedi of all the main characters. This is or that is someone who combined wisdom and strength without blindly following the counsel. I don't know. He did follow the council because he was part of the council, but the council did question things. They did go up into debate about issues. And then with Obi-Wan's experience and strength, even Mace told him, you're basically, and I think it elaborated more in the novelization, that Mace was telling Obi-Wan that he is the best Jedi to go after Grievous because of his experience and his strength in his lightsaber technique. Because he mastered one, he was the master of one and not knowledgeable in all. Basically, he was strong enough and powerful enough to take on Grievous. That's what Mace told Obi-Wan. Still, according to Anakin's, and I think it was Sorsu, I think it is. But anyways, according to Anakin's own words, there was pretty much no room for Obi-Wan to evolve as a Jedi, as a teacher. Assumption that Star Wars canon proved, and so they mean Star Wars canon, they're probably referring to Disney, because that's what they call Disney now, but the real canon is George Lucas, proved wrong a few times. Obi-Wan particularly to blame for Anakin Skywalker's fall to the dark side. That is a tough one here. Obi-Wan is particularly to blame for Anakin's fall to the dark side. What do you guys think about this little bit right here? Let me see here what you guys have to say. Okay, nothing just yet. So you guys start eluding, start chatting about this article here. What are your thoughts here? So Obi-Wan particularly to blame for Anakin Skywalker's fall. No, Anakin chose to fall. Maybe he was ignoring the relationship part. Who knows? So let me see what you guys have to say. While Anakin chose to seek Darth Sidious's dark force techniques to save Padme at the expense of destroying the Jedi Order, Skywalker's loss of trust in the Jedi way traces back to Attack of the Clones. Obi-Wan raised Anakin not only as a Jedi, but also as a person, meaning that Kenobi had the window to look past Anakin's Jedi skills and realize that his people had always been full of doubts. Everybody is not, when you're trained as a Jedi, you're still a person. You're still that being that you are. You still have your own train of thought. And Qui-Gon is the example of that. You're not just this mindless droid of a Jedi kind of thing. So that I'm not picking up on. I mean, even even Yoda, even Mace, because Mace was allowed to, expand on 4-7 into Vapad. Now, if they weren't allowed to be individuals and stuff like that, then why would they have debates on the council? Why would they allow Mace to come up with that new, that secondary form of 7 into Vapad? And then decide who and who cannot based upon the personalities, the emotions and stuff of the students. Anakin's Jedi upbringing was an unusual one, as he joined the Jedi later than the younglings and Padawans, correct. So he was 9 years old. Anakin's attachment to his mother and later Padme were the complete opposite of what Jedi Order asked of its knights. And while whether the Jedi Order's ways were right is up for debate. No, they were wrong, and that's what Yoda realized. And seeing Luke and Leia as the hope of recreating the new Jedi Order. And that's in the novelization of Revenge of the Sith. It had always been clear that Anakin saw the world differently from most of his peers. Although a Jedi with different views is not necessarily a problem. Every single one of them had different views. When you get into Quinlan Voss, his views were completely different than his master Tom, Qui-Gon, and then Qui-Gon too. Qui-Gon Jinn was quite a rebel. Anakin Skywalker was never just another Jedi. The Chosen One prophecy aside, Anakin had the potential to be the most powerful Jedi the galaxy had ever seen. Something that Obi-Wan appeared to have ignored. No, Obi-Wan did not ignore it. He is the one that was like, he is the chosen one. He's the one that was always raising question to why Yoda and Mace was doubting the prophecy. He was always on Anakin's side. And much so to even agree that he was immature to become a master. Obi-Wan's mistakes considered Qui-Gon Jinn's former Padawan was given an almost impossible task: train and look out for the possible Chosen One, right as Kenobi was about to become a Jedi Knight himself. Qui-Gon wanted to take on Anakin as an apprentice, yet the burden fell on Obi-Wan to become Anakin's master. There was still much Obi-Wan had to learn, but now with a torn Padawan of his own, while having a Padawan can actually teach a Jedi Knight many lessons, as seen with Anakin and Ahsoka channel. There was no lessons in that. They co-signed each other's bullshit. Ahsoka, there was a lot of like Sith demeanor in her. And I recommend I'm Your Alibi channel to get into more of the breakdown with Ahsoka Tano. Skywalker was not a run-of-the-mill Padawan. Such an endeavor was just too much pressure on Obi-Wan's shoulder. So, you're saying that Anakin worshiping Obi-Wan led to his fall, but now you're not sharing any evidence here, other than showing that Obi-Wan tried his best with what he was given. So let me see what you guys have to say in the chat. It says, interesting, but I don't know if I trust it. Correct. And I read that already. Gotta run, have fun. Thank you for coming in later. Anakin had a bit of an ego because he was the chosen one. Correct. And that was not Obi-Wan's fault, and it wasn't worshiping of Obi-Wan either. This article must have been written in crayon. Correct. I agree. So this is, like I said, this is the cringe factor. Doesn't mean I agree with it. And then Anakin believed that Obi-Wan had all the answers, which was misguided. No, he did not. He was literally talking shit about Obi-Wan to Padme in episode 2 in her room as she was packing. Obi-Wan was a flawed as any Star Wars Jedi. And while Kenobi was the best possible teacher Anakin could have had after Qui-Gon's death, he could not solve all of Anakin's problem. I don't think Obi-Wan was trying to solve any of Anakin's problems. Some of the things that Anakin was going through, Obi-Wan had no clue about. Because Anakin lied. Anakin hidden. Anakin was being manipulated by Palpatine. There was no influence of worship from Obi-Wan or for Obi-Wan that led to his fall. It was all the manipulation of what Palpatine was feeding into Anakin's ego. And Anakin confided in... Now, if Anakin thought Obi-Wan or worshipped Obi-Wan, then he would be confiding in Obi-Wan and telling his secrets. No, he worshipped Palpatine. Why am I saying this? Because he went to Palpatine as a father figure and gave up all his secrets to him. Listen to Palpatine. Palpatine fed his ego, which created a gap between Anakin and Obi-Wan and a distrust in the Order. By idolizing Obi-Wan, Anakin set himself up for disappointment. There was no disappointment whatsoever. Obi-Wan could not make Anakin into a Jedi Master or teach him how to cheat death. You can't make one into a Jedi Master. You can provide the training. It's up to the knight to mature and take those lessons to grow. And of course, he couldn't teach him to cheat death because that's a Sith thing, other than later on learning how to ascend into the Force, be one with the Force, a Force ghost. Something that instead of opening Anakin's eyes to his flaws, caused Skywalker to turn on his friend. No. None of this was a result of Anakin's fault or fall. Again, it was Palpatine feeding his ego, creating a gap between him and Anakin and Obi-Wan, making Anakin distrust the Jedi, including his master, questioning his master. Anakin's flawed logic was that if Obi-Wan couldn't be on his side in everything, then the once perfect Jedi master had to become his enemy. And there you go. So they're going with, if you're not with me, you're my enemy kind of deal. No. Anakin's train of thought was the attachment. It was saving Padme. It wasn't about worshiping Obi-Wan that made him fall. It was about the attachment. And Palpatine fed into that. Palpatine fed into his ego. And gave him an ultimatum. And thus, Anakin chose. And he chose to go to the dark side. He chose to go against the Jedi. It wasn't about disappointment in Obi-Wan because he worshipped him. Because there was nowhere in any of the story of any of the worship, like any worship, no evidence of the worship kind of deal. None whatsoever. So let's see here. He told Palpatine about the Tusken Massacre, correct? Obi-Wan had just left the Padawan stage when he started training. Annie was more like the big bro that fuses at you or fusses at you and makes you irritated, correct? You're the Obi-Wan for me. Hello, Studying and Brave Megatron. How are you doing? You are the Obi-Wan for me. So what do you guys think? Again, this person, then let me get his name again for those who don't know. And it is, oh crap. It is, I was going to say Marcelino, but it's Marcello. And this is not the only article that I've read of his on Cringe Factor where it's like, did you even watch the movies? Did you even understand the movies when you wrote this article? Did you even do research when you written the article? Now, this is all opinion because he's not providing any type of proof in any type of Disney canon, or I wouldn't say canon lore. So this is what he contrived. This is everything that he pulled out of his ass if he supposedly watched the PT. And this is the conclusion he came up with. Now, in anywhere of this lore of the PT, did you think Anakin worshipped his master? If you worshipped someone, you wouldn't think that they are holding you back. You wouldn't have this like little this little fit of rage if you were, about how you think your master is treating you if you worshipped them. And in fact, there's none of that. There's that compassion between the two. There's that brotherly love. But that's as far as it went. Now, if you get into the Republic comics when Anakin thought he lost his master, and Obi-Wan was an Alpha was a prisoner to Asajj, And then because of their bond, he still felt or Obi-Wan is alive. Yeah, that is just the forced bond, I guess you can say, and that is just a relationship, but there's no worship in that. So I don't know where this person came up with the worship of Obi-Wan that led to Anakin's fall. And if you get into the which I bounced out of the OT, the archives of episode 4 through 6, Star Wars archives. I bounced out of that for a little bit from reading it and going through it. And now I'm in episode 1 through 3 of the Star Wars archives. And nowhere, as far as I'm seeing, with the script shared, with the interviews shared, that was the focus of Anakin's fall, worshiping Obi-Wan. It is not. He may have spoken highly of his, or thought highly of his master because of his abilities, but he also kind of like berated him a little bit too on how he thought that Obi-Wan was treating him and stuff. That's not worship. That's just a basic relationship. In a worship type thing, the person could do no wrong. So there you have it. Let's see here. Thank you. So more Star Wars Archives writer interview. There you go. So the truth of it is in the story, is in the scripts, basically, in the development, and also the direction George was taken or has taken the story. And this is our segment of Cringe Factor. And now I want to go into a little bit about what Filoni was saying. And this goes into how Disney is setting up their fans to view George's 6 movies. Now, I'm not going to pull up the interview here, but many of you guys may have seen the interview. But basically, in an interview, and there's like a few of them, like there's like so much that came out of Filoni and Favreau's interviews in the last few, like this last week, that are very polarizing, very revealing. But one of the most recent one that Filoni shared, other than saying that, Luke wasn't a Jedi because Yoda never declared him a Jedi, is that he ignored Luke being the last Jedi after Return of the Jedi. He's like, oh yeah, I ignored that. I ignored that. You know why he ignored that? For Ahsoka. But my point is that they are going away from the movie lore, from George's intentions, and they're retconning how you see the movies through the shows that they're providing, through the EU. Like the shows to me are still part of the EU, or their EU, or whatever. But anyways, through the material, the multimedia, multimedia verse, I guess you can say, of all the materials that they're bringing in, the books, the comics, the shows, what have you, the games under Disney, through those, they are using that to change how the viewers view the 6 original movies. And it all started with the Guardian, or the cartoon, that Cartoon Galaxy one, not Guardian, because that's a totally different genre. But the cartoons of the Cartoon Galaxy cartoons of the OT and the PT, and how, like, it shared Leia slapping Han or whatever, or Luke or whatever, I'm sorry. But anyways, how they bring out the material around the movies is now changing the perception and how people view the movies. And this, in case right here, is proof of it. So he said, yeah, in the Star Wars canon, it's showing this. So don't be fooled. When you watch Mandalorian, they're changing how you view the 6 movies. And they're leading into their sequel trilogy, which I call Disney trilogy. They're leading into that. Don't be blind. Don't be fooled. Another part of cringe factor is revealing that stuff. Sharing the lore, revealing that stuff so that you can make your own educated mind guess. I wouldn't say guess, but decision on what you want to do, which way you want to go with the lore. Yeah, I know I got a little deep here, but that's how it's going. And I know we touched up on this on the spacing as well. But when you have someone write an article like this, and then Filoni is saying, "Oh yeah, I'm ignoring these elements here because basically, if you read between the lines, because he wants to tell his own story with his own characters, make his characters more significant." And then when he says, "Oh well, Yoda didn't say he was a Jedi, so he's not one," and I'm paraphrasing now, so people who are watching who are on the other side and defending Filoni, get your panties out of a bunch, okay? Anyways, he's changing how you perceive, how you view the lore that came before, that was set up. And he says, "Oh, I was George's apprentice and I respect." No, he doesn't fucking respect what has come before. If he really respected the maker, then he wouldn't be ignoring the fact that Luke was the last Jedi after Return of the Jedi, sorry. And so that's the conclusion that I'm coming to with this. I will still talk more about this, still review, while giving you EU lore, giving you movie lore, talking about it, breaking down the lore, and also comparing and contrasting. That's what my channel's about. My channel's about being raw and being real, presenting all of this in front of you while sharing the lore, while preserving the lore. Whether you like it or not, that's fine. Those who are meant to be here and support are here. I know I'm not going to be favorable to everybody, and that's okay. I am a grown-ass adult woman. I can listen to other channels that I don't agree with and still pick up on something. Still maybe learn a little bit of something. It's about having an open mind. It's about having an open mind in your own thinking process, your own thought process. And yeah, I may tease with people about maybe what authors and stuff that they like and don't like and stuff, because we all have that. We all have our favorite author. We all have our favorite story. Like I said earlier, when I began this live stream, talking about the Thrawn trilogy. Yes, I think it's overrated. I still love the stories and stuff, but I'm one of the few. I still love it. I still respect it for it opening up the EU more into a more coherent history of Star Wars, because that's when Lucasfilm really realized that this is what we want. We're sophisticated fans. We want a continued history. And boy, did they give it to us. Yeah, they had to go back and make some corrections, because look how many years of development that Lucasfilm developed the lore. 35 plus years, and this goes all the way back like 25,000 plus years, probably even further. I'm just going off of like the timeline and not, going way back when in some of the history shared with inside the lore, and stuff like that. But we have the Rakata, on one end, the beginning of the Jedi on that end as well, the beginning of the galaxy. Then on the other end, we have the last generations of Skywalkers. And it's a beautiful thing. It's a beautiful thing. And it's because fans like us have been a part of the EU since the beginning, since we watched and wanted to see what happened after the OT, wanted to see what happened after the PT and around it, wanted to go back into the earliest history of Star Wars ever. And it's us that helped kept I can't even talk now. I'm like a little bit emotional now, you guys. I'm gonna cry. No, I'm joking. But anyways, we kept Star Wars alive in between the movies and even after. I would say pat yourself on the back for that, you guys. We are the foundation of Star Wars, right? We are the foundation. Like even Disney Star Wars knew that we are the foundation, but yet they tossed out the EU. Thinking that would still stay with Star Wars after that, realizing that they're bastardizing our favorite characters, our favorite lore. And then shit, we can't even, draw a proper conclusion with the Mandalorian lore in Disney anyways. It's like so fucked up right now. But yet we still have the Mandalorian culture and lore and all that in the original lore. It's still there for us. So pat yourselves on the back, you guys. No matter if you've been with Star Wars EU or the whole entire Star Wars lore movie EU and stuff for a very long time, or that you decided to come back into it or become a brand new fan to it, like since the bad taste of the DT gave you, pat yourselves on the back for helping keeping it alive, help keeping Star Wars alive in its true original form. And also pat yourselves on the back for being that warrior, I guess you can say, standing up and being the voice of what's going on and how they're tearing apart the movies with their lore. Pat yourselves on the back for that. Because it takes a lot of guts to stand up and talk out against it. Because even people who are maybe considered on the same side of you will still talk shit, because they'll still say, oh, well, they say that they're all about the EU, but then they talk about the Disney stuff and it's so cringe. I'm here to speak the raw truth to you guys while sharing the lore, while having fun with it. So, no matter where you are in the stage, whether you're just here to have fun with the EU and Star Wars in general, the true Star Wars, pat yourself on the back. If you're here to also stand up and be the voice of reason, pat yourself on the back. And I'm going to come to this conclusion here. So thank you guys for always tuning in for Caff Chat, for always picking up the lore videos, when I do make them. It's just this past year, I guess you can say now, has been crazy for me. Sometimes we do slow down significantly, but Caff Chat will always be here for you guys so we can come back and meet. I do EU shorts as well, so stay tuned for that. And I love Star Wars for what it is, for George Lucas era of Star Wars. So thank you guys again for tuning in. Stay tuned for the coming series. I'm stuck on which way I want to go with all this material pulled up for Ralph McQuarrie. It's I feel like I dug myself into this glorious hole and I can't get out of it right now because it's so interesting. Ralph McQuarrie is so interesting in what he created for Star Wars. It's amazing. So stay tuned for that. And thank you guys again for always tuning in, become a channel member. And also channel member, stay tuned. I promise you I will figure out our watch party, get that set up and set a date. So stay tuned for that. And if you haven't become a channel member, do it. Why not? Do it. And thank you guys again. And may the Force be with you.
I have fought the worst of all wars and witnessed the redemption of evil. I have seen balance restored to the Force. But order can turn to chaos, as it did when I was born. Now, with my loved ones and my loyal allies, I face a new challenge unlike any before. And I'm not sure at this time we can win.
Star Wars Vector Prime by R.A. Salvatore, the first novel of the new Jedi Order.
Another happy landing.